So the Mortal Kombat box office numbers are here, or they've been here, but we have like numbers to go off of in terms of like how it lasted compared to the opening weekend and stuff, and they not so good. I mean, recently we got information about this last weekend's numbers, and Mortal Kombat grossed an estimated $700,000 on Friday, and the domestic gross is $36 million. In total, the Mortal Kombat movie is at $72 million. So technically it made over its budget, but you have to consider that the theaters take 40% of this money. 70 million minus 40% leaves the studio with $42 million. The budget of this movie was 55, 56, 50 million. So it still hasn't made, it still hasn't made enough to break even. So really what the movie needs is like 95, it needs like 85 million at least to get, it needs 85 million at least to break even, and 95 million to like be at least considered a little bit profitable. Like more, if it gets to 100,000, it's profitable. I don't think it's gonna get there. We're in the third week. It had this huge fucking dip, this 73% drop in the second weekend, and then we got a 61% drop the following weekend. So it tanked pretty fucking hard. And if you look and if you compare the box office numbers to the 95 movie, the 95 movie made 122,000, way over the budget of what it was. I think what the Mortal Kombat 1995 movie had like a $15 million budget or something like that. So it made bank. At the time, it made bank. It made 100 million. There are a couple of factors into this. Of course, there is a pandemic. Of course, of course, there isn't that many movie theaters open and things like that. But you have to also consider Godzilla vs. Kong did actually do pretty well. Of course, I mean, Godzilla vs. Kong would have made more had it not been a pandemic. But for a COVID movie, 400 million, that's really good. It made more than its budget, and that's good.
WB, I think we're looking to this as like a makeshift like savior for the box office year, because before the pandemic, this movie was supposed to come out in January.
Yeah.
When movies come out in January, that means that the studio the studio doesn't give a shit. They know it's a garbage piece of shit, and they don't care if it makes no money.
Yeah.
Because fiscally, a lot of families don't go see movies in January because they just spent a fuck ton of money on Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah, typically January movies don't do well because, again, because of Christmas and all that kind of stuff. And to bring up your point, on the blast, no, I'm not trying to give them credit. I'm just trying to acknowledge different factors here. Godzilla vs. Kong, of course, is the better movie. It's critically well received. The fans like it. And a lot of people were excited for it, and of course it made the money.
I fucking love this movie.
Yeah.
Like, if you ask me, out of these fucking like new Godzilla Kong movies there are, this is second best.
Yeah.
Best is Kong Skull Island, and then this.
Yeah. So like, to me,
there's a lot of like inventive, creative shit in there. Like, I could see what was happening in the fights. That they weren't edited like garbage.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
But what I'm trying to say is that, like, Mortal Kombat could have made, I don't think it would have got to, like, 400 million, because Mortal Kombat is still, like, a very, like, it's still a very too niche. I think it's too, like, too small. I don't think it's as big as many people like to think it is. It could be, but right now it's not. Because I think it could have made 100 million by now if it was a better movie. Like, because, like, you got to consider, there was no competition for this movie. Like, the only thing that came out on the side of Mortal Kombat was Demon Slayer, and that also is a movie that has a big fan base, but it's also too niche as well. So what's going to appeal more to mainstream audiences?
Too, weren't they? They were head-to-head in the box office.
Yeah, they were head-to-head. That was the only competition that it had. And by the way, Demon Slayer... Yeah, Demon
That's
Slayer...
really bad.
Demon Slayer, an anime movie, very close to like evening out with Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat pulled through, but an anime movie? Fuck, what, really? So,
That's
like,
still
I
very,
think
very
that has to do,
embarrassing.
yeah, that has to do with the fact that there are two niche franchises, but at the same time, you have to acknowledge that Mortal Kombat can break out of that too niche and all that kind of stuff. To me, again, this could have made more, like it could have been on 100 million right now had it been a good movie, a better movie. So we have to come to this reality that Mortal Kombat just critically wasn't well received. A lot of people were like, yeah, the story's not good. Fights and fatals may have been great, but overall it doesn't really work as a movie. That's the general consensus of the critics and general consensus of what I've been seeing online as well. Like, it's not just like Mortal Kombat. All Mortal Kombat fans like it. It's just the audiences are like just super disconnected from the critics. So it's not like it's not like a Venom situation where like most people like actually did like Venom. They acknowledge it wasn't that great, but they still liked it, and the critics just fucking hated it. It's not a Venom situation. It's a situation where the critics don't like it, and some of the fans are like, I don't know. Like, they just thought it was okay. Because I remember I did a poll on my community tab, and I think like over like 5,000 people like voted in it, and this was before my review, so there was no influence whatsoever from me. But most people on that poll said that it was just okay. And if you look at the cinema score, and again, if you know anything about cinema score, these are people who actually go to the theaters and they tally people who saw the movie straight out of the theater, and they ask them what do they think about it. And it has a B+. Now, B+ isn't terrible. B+ isn't terrible, but it's not like, it's right around what I'm talking about. It's right around like, it was just okay. It was just okay. And honestly, like, Mortal Kombat shouldn't be like just okay, you know? And if you just have a just okay movie, it's not really gonna do that well. So again, there are multiple factors. There is a pandemic. There is the fact that it's on HBO Max and all that kind of stuff. So audiences are divided still. But again, this movie didn't really have that much competition. And if it was a better movie, it definitely would have done a lot better. Like, again, currently right now, Mortal Kombat 1995 has $122 million. And the new movie is struggling to get to like 80 million. So there was something about like Mortal Kombat being the most streamed platform, this most streamed movie or something like that. I'm not sure if they're actually being like 100% like honest with that, or they're being a little bit misleading, because I don't think that Mortal Kombat beat out Wonder Woman like in terms of like overall streaming numbers and Godzilla vs. Kong. It may have been like the initial weekend numbers may have been that way, but I don't know. I will admit I don't know. I'm not too sure on the HBO Max numbers.
I'm not gonna believe any of those articles saying that unless I see some fucking numbers, which they're not gonna put out.
I really don't know the numbers, and there is this rumor about a Mortal Kombat series being announced at what was it? There is a rumor about a Mortal Kombat series being announced at Warner Media up front, where they talk all about like HBO Max and what's coming and all that kind of stuff. So like, we don't have like concrete numbers, and so I want to know those streaming numbers. If the streaming numbers are really good, there could be some life in the future of the Mortal Kombat cinematic universe or whatever, Mortal Kombat CU and things like that.
Now here's the thing with the numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know what exactly the metrics that Warner Brothers is looking at for success.
Yeah.
With the streaming service. Are they looking at views, or are they looking at how many people the new Mortal Kombat movie draws to HBO Max subscriptions?
So my point is that like, we don't really know the HBO Max numbers. I will say though that like, because HBO Max itself has been very like struggling in terms of competing with streaming and all that kind of stuff, they will put out anything. Like, if this Mortal Kombat movie did really well, like if if it actually got this many like so many people to subscribe, so many people to watch, if it really was like this huge giant success that these fucking like articles are putting out to be like that, HBO Max would have put out the numbers. Like they would have been like, guys, this is what we got. Like, watch the movie. Like, we got our numbers up. Like, we finally got something that we can rely on. We can finally have something like that. They would have done it by now. I don't think they haven't. So I don't think the HBO Max numbers are all that. Especially considering that audiences are still divided on whether or not they want to go to HBO Max or they want to go to the theater and things like that. So we don't really know. Again, there are rumors saying that they might announce something like that. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but yeah, I'm not sure. Like, the box office numbers don't look very well. I know some people may say like, well, Brusk, Joe Taslim said that he signed on for 4 movies. If you know anything about movies, that doesn't mean anything. Yeah. If you know anything about movies, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean they're happening. That just means if the studio wants to go forward with it, then yes, that actor is obligated to come back because he already signed the contract. Just because Joe Taslim said that he signed on doesn't mean that those movies are happening. That's just how movies work. That's how they always worked. That's if you know anything about like movies and contracts and things like that. That's how it works and all that kind of stuff.
There's also the question regarding all this. Does Warner Brothers even care?
Yeah, well, I think they would care if they got the money. Because if they got the money, of course they're gonna do it. But the thing is, when you're struggling to break even, are they really going to care? Are they really going to do it?
I feel like when Black Widow comes out, it's gonna struggle to break even potentially.
Well, like, by the time it comes out, I expect. There is news about more theaters opening up because of how the U.S. is handling the pandemic very, very well. There is news about like more theaters opening up. So like I'm thinking like it could break even, or it could make a little bit more. It's definitely not going to be $1 billion. 100%, it's not going to be $1 billion.
Their thought process could have been, it's a pandemic. We don't really care if it makes blah blah. Mm-hmm. You know, whatever. We'll make another one. Fuck it. Fucksies. Yeah. But, who knows? Because Kong vs. Godzilla, made double its budget, who fucking knows how that changed their mind or not.
Yeah, there's so many things to consider. It's just the fact that, like, it, on the box office, it didn't break even. Like, it's struggling to break even. I feel like if it broke even, I think it would have been fine. I think we actually would have heard news by now about, like, a Mortal Kombat sequel. I mean, we're getting rumors and things like that, but
there's definitely rumblings.
Yeah, there's definitely rumblings about it, but like that came out when they thought like everything was going to be very well. That came out when we heard news about like, oh, big MK opening weekend or whatever the fuck. And then when we got news about like the drop in the weekends and things like that, then all of a sudden, I don't know. Like, we don't really hear anything. The future of Mortal Kombat cinematic universe is definitely in question. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a sequel, though. I wouldn't be surprised if we got one. They may look at some numbers. They may combine some numbers and things like that and say, this is good enough. We'll try one more time, and if it doesn't do well, then boom. Let's just not do it anymore. But right now, I'm not sure if they're super confident in it. So, anyways, let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next video.